be joined for this presentation this afternoon by Melia from Enovation Solutions, and we're very proud to announce today that we're working with Enovation Solutions on the ICS Grid. So they're our partner, our Moodle partner for the ICS Grid. So I'm going to be talking to you about, what's in the grid and how you can get set up and so on. And Mark will take you through the actual grid itself and the Moodle instance and show you some of the, the handy tools and features that are included in the grid. I'm going to talk to you a lot about the actual content that's in the grid and what your school or how your school can get involved. So the ICS Grid, first of all, is part of our ICS initiatives for schools. We're a not-for-profit organisation, so we reinvest our funds in these kind of initiatives. So it's one of our most exciting and most recent initiatives for schools. You may have heard of some of our other initiatives mentioned this morning by Mary Cleary. So we have our Choose IT, our Formula 1 in schools, Scratch and so on. So the ICS Grid is one of the most recent and one of the ones that we're very proud to be launching and releasing to schools around the country. This wouldn't be possible without joining forces with companies like Enovation Solutions and Cambridge University Press. So Enovation Solutions are the people that have helped us to develop the Moodle element, and Cambridge University Press have given us a lot of the content. So we have content from over 45 different providers around the globe, all packaged together inside our digital library. So the ICS Grid itself, really, as I mentioned, it's a library of curricular digital resources, and they're covering all secondary school subjects in the Irish curriculum. What we did was we worked with teachers around the country over the last few months on this project to aggregate content that's actually suited to all of your topics that you're teaching, all of your subjects that you're teaching throughout the school year, and trying to map it all to the curriculum and ensure that you're ready for your exams and that you're not going to be burdened by carrying around all of those school books and so on. It's delivered through a Moodle implementation which is optimised for Irish schools. So we're delivering this through the most recent and up-to-date version of Moodle, Moodle 2.2. So any school that is using the ICS Grid will have their own Moodle 2.2 implementation, which is completely private and secure for that school. This is just an example screenshot of a school site that would use the ICS Grid. It's obviously got our ICS Grid theme, but it's customizable then for the school. So you could put your own school photos on the home page or your contact details. You could even use it as your school website to direct people to your school and post your news and so on for your teachers and students. Use it to, communicate with all of your teachers and students throughout the year. Use it for school calendars and discussion forums and so on. So that's just a little sort of snapshot image of what a site would look like. So schools that are using the grid would have their own school site. For example, the name of your school, .icsgrid.ie. So it's your own single URL for your school. Every person that uses the grid in your school would have their own user accounts. They'll have their own username and password to log in, similar to any other systems that you would use maybe in your school, like Google Apps or your network system for your school and so on. So all content is private and only accessible to your school. So if you do have content that you want to upload for your school, for your teachers, or you want to send messages out to teachers in your school or to students in your school and so on, all of that communication, all of that content is private and only accessible to your school. There is a facility, obviously, that we have on the system that will allow you to publish that content if you want to publish it for other teachers in grid schools. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But when you have your own school instance of the grid, everything that you do on the grid is only accessible through your own school. So it is very private and secure. And then, as I said, access to content is provided by ICS Skills. So we add our own content then to the grid for you. So as I mentioned, we have the latest version of Moodle for your school. So the ICS Grid has Moodle 2.2. We also have access to mapped content. I'll go into a little bit more about that in just a second. So in your school site, you would have access to all of this content that we have mapped and worked very closely with teachers in Irish schools all around the country over the last year to create for you. You have access to the Global Grid for Learning library. I'll talk to you about that in just one second. Every person in the school has their own user account, so their own single username and password. You have the option or facility to build your own courses or to access all of the courses that we've already created for you. You then also have the facility to upload your own content, any resources that you so wish, to the teachers and to the students in your school. You can use it to access students' performance, so you can grade them through the system. Their parents can log in and have a look and see how the students are getting on as the year progresses. You could use it for parent-teacher meetings and so on. So it's a way to assess your students' performance. It also lets the students see how they're performing throughout the year as well. So it's a very good motivator for your students so they can see how they're doing in their tests and their activities and so on. You can use it as a tool to communicate with your students and with your teachers. You could have message boards on the system or maybe special interest groups that teachers can join, log into and send messages through, which is completely free of vendors. So it's completely free of anyone else logging in and sending messages. So it's a really nice private way for teachers to actually give each other peer-to-peer support, whilst also allowing for teachers in grid schools around the country to communicate with each other as well and to support each other through whatever kind of resource development or whatever kind of development they want to do or professional development and so on. So as I mentioned as well, you can use it for tracking your students' performance throughout the year. So that's allowing you to look at how they're being graded and so on. So, a principal could look at it from a top-level view in the school and see how all of the different classes are doing, and a teacher could look at it from their class level and see how their students are performing throughout the course of the year, depending on what sort of activities they give them to carry out on the grid itself. So I mentioned about the mapped curricular content. So we have worked extensively with Irish teachers throughout the course of this year to ensure that the learning resources in the grid are precisely mapped to the Irish curriculum. We began this project about maybe a year and a half ago, and we looked at the project maths as the first subject to work with. So we worked extensively over the first, say, 6 months, getting all of the content for project maths and aggregating it together and ensuring that teachers that were starting on the project maths pilot last year had all the content they needed for strands 1 and 2 and so on. Following on from the success of that, we've now gone through all of the other subjects in the Irish curriculum, and we've built courses for all of those subjects. So there's no excuse really for teachers in the school not to use it. When you get an instance of the grid, every teacher can get involved. So every teacher has a subject that they can log into and start to use resources in and start to enroll their own students into. So these are just examples of the subjects like English, Irish, Maths, Science, Business Studies, French, Geography and so on. So what we did was we went through the Global Grid for Learning library and we looked for content in all of these subjects. We worked with teachers to find that content, and then we also asked the teachers to develop content as well for these subjects. So a maths teacher would have gone off and built a course in Moodle for that particular maybe ordinary level maths or higher level maths or project maths strand 1 and 2 and so on. And they would have mapped out the exact topics that were taught for that subject, found the resources and put them all together in a course ready for you to begin to use once you log into the grid. So this is just an example of a course in Moodle or inside the grid. So your content is all mapped out in the centre of the page. Junior Cert Irish here we have. So the teacher would basically break up the actual subject into all of the individual topics in the proposed order that they would be taught, and added in the proper resources that would be used for this. Now a teacher using a course like this, they wouldn't necessarily have to use it in exactly that order. They may just find particular resources that they like that might be good for a 1.5 hour class or for a week's worth of work and so on. All of the courses that are in the grid are template courses, so your teachers then can take a copy of them themselves and start to add to them or remove resources or add in their own activities and tests and so on and quizzes. So there's a lot you can do with the content that's there, but we have it ready-made so your teachers can begin to teach as soon as they log in. So on top of the actual mapped content, as I mentioned, we have exclusively in Ireland, we have exclusive rights to the Global Grid for Learning library through the ICS Grid. So this has over 1.8 million digital learning resources from over 45 global providers. So all of that content is packaged together in one digital library. So you can go in and search for content based on whatever subjects. You can search by age range, by topic, by resource type and so on. And you can pull those resources out of the library and either play them on your screen or else go into a course within the grid and add the resources into your course. So what we've done is we've basically we've integrated this system with the grid itself, so you can actually pull the resources directly into a course from the grid library. So important things to mention about the resources in the Global Grid for Learning library is that they're all reliable, they're all age related, they're appropriate to the topics that you're teaching, they're all relevant, so it's very different to going on to the likes of Google and searching for a particular topic and getting your 15,000 results and trawling through them and never being sure if they're actually correct reliable, or even safe for your students to be looking at. You know, they could contain adult content and so on. But most importantly, it's all copyright cleared. So all of the content that you'll see in the ICS Grid is all copyright cleared, so it's ready for you to take and repurpose, use in your projects, use in your posters in your school. You know, you can use it in activities for the students and so on, and pop them into your courses in Moodle. But you have rights, once you have a subscription to the ICS Grid, you have the right to take the content and use it for whatever way you wish in an education setting. So as I mentioned, searching is very easy within the Grid. When you're searching for content, you can search by keyword, by age range, by subject, resource type, timeline, and then as you get used to the content, you'll get used to the content providers that you maybe think are good in your chosen subject. So you can search by content provider then as well. So I mentioned just about the integration of the GGFL library and the ICS Grid. So students and teachers have a front-end search, so they can go in and search for whatever content they so wish. Also, teachers can, from within a course in the Grid, can actually search for content from the Moodle course screen and insert content directly. And Mark will demonstrate that for you in just a couple of minutes. I'm just going to play a very short video. This is based on the Global Grid for Learning library, just to give you a little bit more flavour of what's on offer from within the library. This is all the copyright cleared content from Cambridge University Press.
21st century learning means
Sound.
21st century resources. However, in a world that is becoming more and more digital, the amount of information that is available can often be overwhelming. This presents a real problem to education.
I'm just going to pause this for 1 second so we can turn up the sound. Sorry. Great, thanks.
Twenty-first century learning means having 21st century resources. However, in a world that is becoming more and more digital, the amount of information that is available can often be overwhelming. This presents a real problem to education, as some of this content is not suitable for the classroom, not relevant to learning goals and objectives, not reliable or accurate, and not compliant with copyright laws. But this doesn't need to be the case. Welcome to Global Grid for Learning, your single source for multimedia, multi-publisher digital resources for education. Global Grid for Learning provides teachers and students at all stages in education with a single access point to over 1 million educationally relevant digital learning resources from some of the world's leading content providers and educational publishers. Our library is tailored specifically for education so that educators and students can quickly and easily discover the content they need when they need it. And as our resources are copyright cleared and safe, there is no need to worry about copyright infringement or any other legal issues concerning the use of the content. The Global Grid for Learning library delivers comprehensive coverage of all subject areas at all stages in education, from early years to adult learning, offering a variety of content types, including interactive learning objects, video clips, audio files, images, and documents. With Global Grid for Learning, teachers can bring 21st century learning resources into the educational environment, enabling them to create rich and immersive multimedia lessons for their students, reinforce learning with interactive resources and activities, and motivate and inspire students with engaging digital content. Global Grid for Learning offers end users multiple ways to access our digital content library. These include interactive whiteboards, virtual learning environments, and learning platforms, and collaboration software and content authoring tools. Global Grid for Learning resources are delivered directly to schools in Ireland exclusively through the ICS Grid. So go ahead and take that next step towards 21st century learning and begin to engage, motivate and inspire learners today with the Global Grid for Learning.
Okay, this next slide just has a very short amalgamation of some of the types of resources that are in the Global Grid for Learning. So it's just a very short video that gives you a taster of the types of videos or resources that you'll be able to play for your students that you could source through the Global Grid for Learning library. Anyone was dozing after their lunch, that would have woke you up anyway. Sorry about the volume being so loud. So that's just like a little taster of the type of resources that you can find in the actual library itself. I'll go into the actual grid itself now in just one second, but just to mention, we will be able to give schools demonstration accounts to have a look at the content and to go in and have a look at what's on offer, you know, if they want to get a closer view of what exactly you would see in your school website. Also just to mention, I suppose, the resources that the teachers have added to the grid, or that we've added to the grid ourselves, they're taken from a number of different areas. So they're from the Global Grid for Learning library. They're resources that teachers have developed themselves. Kieran mentioned the Khan Academy. We have quite a lot of resources from the Khan Academy for maths and science and so on. So the resources that we have come from from many different areas and many different repositories and so on. I'm just going to go into full screen view here just for 1 second. Okay, so this is just a sample implementation of the grid, or this is a sample site that a school would have. So as I mentioned, all of this area would be customizable by the school. So you could pop your own school photos, logos, contact details and so on. You can have all of your own content, all of your own, connect to your school Facebook and so on, your school calendars and so on. Everything on this page can be customizable. Obviously it's going to have an ICS Grid theme because any school using this will be part of the ICS Grid network. So it's very important that, that's understood. But anything that's on the page really is all customizable by the school. I'll just show you just a sample of, say, some courses that would be accessible to the school. So under My Courses, this area over here, teachers that use the grid would basically have access to courses in their chosen subject. So Mark's going to go into a little bit more detail or show you the actual courses themselves, but like we've broken down the courses into Junior Cert and Leaving Cert, or Transition Year, and Leaving Cert Applied and so on. And we've gone through all of the different courses or topics for those subjects and populated content, aggregated content together that your teachers could just basically log in and start to use straight away. I'm just going to open up a sample here just quickly before Mark takes to the stage, just to show you like a sample, say Junior Cert Business Studies. If I was a business studies teacher and I had no experience at all in the past with using Moodle, I'd actually be able to log in and start to use it straight away. So I'd be able to log in and access resources here for financial accounts for Junior Cert Business Studies and so on. And we've broken it down. We've consulted with, obviously, business studies teachers on how this should be presented. So, it's been broken down into all of the different subjects like the consumer, budgeting, insurance, and so on. So business studies teachers have come together to put this content together and make sure that it's relevant and obviously, up to standard and ready for a Junior Cert Business Studies teacher to use with their students. So the resources that are in this course, as I said, they're a mixture of resources that teachers have developed themselves or resources that have come from the Global Grid for Learning library. That's integrated with the grid itself, so resources can be taken directly from the GGFL library and put into this course. If a teacher just wanted to simply log in and just look for content in the Global Grid for Learning library, I'll just go back to my home screen. The library is accessible through a block just on the home page and on every page throughout the grid. So the teacher would simply just click on the GGFL library link and that would bring them directly into the library itself and allow them to start searching for content. Students would also have this view as well. So students, if they're working on projects or group work and so on, they can go into the Global Grid for Learning library through their login as well. So obviously teachers would be the people who are adding resources and so on to the grid, but students themselves also have a login to the Global Grid for Learning library, so they can go in and search for content. So searching for content here is so easy. It's all filtered very straightforwardly by age range, by subject, even by resource type. So if you decided you just wanted to find an image for a certain subject, or you just wanted to get a little interactive learning object or a little quiz and so on, you can go into the GGFL library and search for specific content. So I'm just going to very quickly search for a piece of content here. Okay. So once I search for my content, all of the results that appear will appear on the right-hand side, and I can go through them and read a little description of the content, and I can view it here if I wanted. If I was a student, I could just view it, or if I was a teacher, I could download it from here onto my PC, or if I'm in a course within the ICS Grid, I can just directly add it into my course. So I can add it as a resource into any of my courses. So, I mean, when we send out demonstration accounts, you'll be able to go into the Grid library and have a look for yourself and see what kind of content that you might find. But it covers all of the different subjects. It covers, you know, primary school level right up to university level. So the age range goes from very young. Like the grid itself, this part of the grid would be very suited to primary schools as well. So we will be looking at a primary school implementation as well for the full package over the coming year. At the moment, obviously, we're mapping to the secondary level curriculum, but we will be looking at primary level later in the year. But so the resources themselves are all age appropriate and relevant and copyright cleared. Mark, do you want to join me now? You can do your Moodle part. So Mark is going to take you through the actual grid just from a Moodle perspective and show you lots of the different features and facilities that are available to the school who are using the grid. Okay, so you can log in.
Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah. Thank you very much, Gwen. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm from a company called Enovation Solutions, and we're basically Moodle people. We're basically a Moodle partner, and what that basically means is we're a recognised expert in the Moodle learning management system, and that's kind of what we've come together with ICS, and the combination of the two, ICS brings kind of their instruction know-how, and we bring our Moodle know-how to bring kind of the ICS Grid to fruition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in as a different user, just because I've been playing around with it this morning. Okay, and as Gwen said, all this is fully customizable by you. You can put your own school there, have pictures there, information for parents and all that sort of stuff. But I'm basically a teacher in this school here, this demo grid school, and as a teacher, say I want to see my own courses. So I go to my home here, and this is basically the courses which I've been enrolled in as a teacher. Okay, and obviously students are enrolled with a student role. But I suppose one thing that you might get from that is if you're enrolled, you can be enrolled as a teacher or as a student, and it's contextualized. So in fact, you can enroll as a teacher in one course and as a student in another course, and that allows you to even use the grid for things like in-service or teacher training and things like that. So it's just something to bear in mind. So I'm just going to go into first year geography course. So the one thing that Gwen's gone over is that there's a lot of extras you get with the grid. You get a lot of extra content. I'm just going to go back out of that, sorry. Right, this one. You get a lot of extra content, a lot of extra features, but what you may kind of forget about is you're actually getting a fully featured Moodle underneath that, which kind of does everything that any other Moodle would do, but you're getting all those extras on top of that. So basically what you have here is this is an enterprise, it's an LCVP course, and you kind of can see some of the features here. You can see that courses have basically been embedded into some of into the course part, and you have videos here that have been embedded. And the idea is that you're kind of not coming from a cold start. From the sounds on. You're not coming from a cold start situation, which you have a lot when you take on a Moodle yourself. You have a blank page and you have a lot of effort to get courses up to this kind of standard. You come in from a situation where you already have a course and it's been customized to your course, but also you have the facility to customize that to whatever way you want to teach. So the idea is not to kind of say this is the way you should teach as a teacher. This is all about kind of facilitating your teaching and kind of complementing your teaching. So as a teacher, I want to edit this, and to edit this, it's very easy just to turn editing on, and some of you might know how to do this from previous use of Moodle. But when you turn editing on, it's basically got this editing features where you can add, edit, delete, move around different resources. And at the very end, you basically have, if you wanted to add a new resource to one particular topic, you have two lists here, which is basically add a resource and add an activity. So the types of resources that we can add to this course are things like files, folders. You can add labels, which is just a bit of text. You can add HTML pages and also URLs. Now the great thing about we've been able to do with the Global Grid for Learning is that we've been able to not only have a feature where you can go onto the Global Grid for Learning, find the learning resource that you need, and then download it to your computer and then upload it, but we've been able to integrate the Global Grid for Learning directly into Moodle. So if you wanted to add something from the Global Grid for Learning, all you need to do is basically click on Add a File and go to your Global Grid for Learning repository. And basically, if you search a resource, it'll basically come up with the resource from the Global Grid for Learning. You click that resource and it very simply adds that resource to your course. The other features here is just, you can probably see that there's other repositories here. So things like Google Docs, Flickr, Casa, even YouTube, which you will find Khan Academy videos on. They're all can be repositories on your Moodle. So you can basically integrate them nice and tightly into your Moodle, so your teacher doesn't have to go off to the web, search for it on the web, then download it, and then integrate it into Moodle. It's all kind of integrated into Moodle. So I'm just going to go back to my course here. Okay, so we've seen the kind of files. So files are, in Moodle speak, I suppose they're static resources. So you can add things like Word documents, PowerPoints, all that sort of stuff. Any resources that you already use within your teaching and learning, you can add them into Moodle, and they'll be there available for your students. The Moodle operates on what's known as a social constructivism pedagogy, which basically means that it's all about getting students engaged, getting students working with each other, learning from each other, and basically getting involved in the teaching and learning process. And that's why we have a lot of activities here as opposed to resources. And the type of resources that we would have is basically different assignments. So you can upload files and things like that. You have chats, which if you want, you could have at a particular time, you could have students chat on a particular subject. We also have things like quizzes, surveys, which are basically allow students to have pop quizzes, survey how students are feeling about the course, how they feel they're getting on, and then also forums, asking students in an asynchronous way to discuss particular topics. So this laptop's gone now. So basically what I wanted to show you was, I'm in a different course now, but I have a quiz in this course, and I've had my students, student 1, 2, down to 10, trying this quiz out, so I have to find this quiz. So it's on volcanoes. So just to give you an idea of the type of questions that we can do in quizzes. So this is so I'm logging as a teacher, so it doesn't record my attempts, but I can still have a look at a preview what the question looks like. So you can kind of see I've added now the resolution is a bit skewed here, but because of the projector, but you can see I've added basically a diagram, and I'm asking my students to basically figure out what was what. So what's number 1, what's number 2, what's number 3. And also do things like, you can have questions with picture and a multiple choice beside it. Ask them, for example, in this case, I'm asking them, okay, where is this particular volcano? And again, you have a sort of a multiple choice there of different locations. Your kind of traditional multiple choice is there. Then you can have things like short answers. So you can basically say, okay, these are all the right answers for this, and these are types of permutation combination that students are acceptable, and it will basically automatically grade it. So the idea is that you can put like nice test your knowledge quizzes at the end of different topics, so students can get an idea, take more ownership of their own learning, figure out, how am I actually doing this topic. And it means for you is that you have a grade book to figure out, okay, how are students actually doing? Is it making sense to students? So I just need to find my grade book here. Oh no. Oops. There it is. So I'll just go into the gradebook here. What the gradebook is, it's basically a central location for all the gradable activities that are in Moodle, okay? So as I said, Moodle is all about activities, it's all about getting students doing things, and you can say that some of these activities are actually gradable. So in this case, I have a few different quizzes in my course, and I have a lesson. So the only thing that students have actually tried to date is the volcano quiz. So I might say, okay, well I want to have a bit more detail about how students did in that. So I'm getting averages and things like that and that. And I can see here for each response, who got what right, what was the answer, who got what partially right. As you saw, there were some questions there that you could have got half marks, things like that in. And you can actually go into, okay, I want to have a look at student 2, because I don't know how they're coming up with these answers, or have a look at exactly what their response was to questions. So I can see that, okay, they got all that wrong. You can see a bit of a log of how they went through the question. So you can actually see like exactly what they've answered and what they've got right and wrong. Not only can you check how students are getting on and how the kind of grades your students are doing, but you can also have a look at how your quiz is getting on. So we can have a look at things like have a look at basic psychometrics for your quiz, looking at things like what people are getting, the standard deviation, the course of the quiz. You can also look at even down to the different responses, looking at for example in this case we can see that 100% got this particular question right. Okay, so and there's obviously there's 0% standard deviation. Obviously this question is not a very it's not a very good question. Like, it's not really telling me very much. If everybody's getting it right, it's obviously too easy. So we can have a look at not only how are students doing, but how is my quiz doing? Is it effective at evaluating my students? So I'll just go back to my course. So I'll turn back anything on. So as I said, there's various different activities, and I just want to highlight 2 for you. So 2 that I was playing around with here. This is what's known as the database activity, and I just thought maybe I'm not an expert in teaching by any means, but maybe it might be something that you could do with this is, for example, important inventions. You could get students involved in, okay, tell your class, come up with important inventions and add it to Moodle, and we'll kind of have a talk about it tomorrow. So in this case, I've started by putting penicillin. So the idea is you basically put the invention, a picture of the inventor, and then when it was invented and why you think it was a great invention. And then once a student has added inventions, the teacher can add comments and things like that to the invention. So you can see it's very easy just to add an entry. So a student will come along, add an entry such as, for example, the web, look for the inventor. So in this case, I'm going to go to Global Grid for Learning and look for Tim Berners-Lee, who is the inventor of the web. And we get pictures of him, so we can basically add a picture of Tim Berners-Lee. And this is what students will do. They can integrate closely with these repositories. So they will see the Global Grid for Learning. It's not just for teachers, it's also for your students to use. So that's just one activity I just want to highlight. And then the other activity is called a lesson. Okay, and a lesson is basically what's known as allows for branched learning. So as you progress through the lesson, depending on what answers you give to the lesson, you'll be brought down a different branch. So it's a slightly adaptive way of learning. A lot of so we have a good few clients in third level and things like that. We find people using this for things like case studies. So given a situation, what do you do? And you do different things, and that will have different effects. So in this case, for example, this is a very simple one that I just threw together. A substance has been spilled in a lab. What do you do? So for example, I say, okay, clean it up. This could be completely the wrong answer for any science teachers here. So it says you should never clean up an unknown substance. Next thing I could give could try perhaps evacuate the lab. Okay, so that evacuate the lab has brought me to the next part. Next part is once the lab is evacuated, what you do, and then you make a choice, and so on and so forth. It brings you down a different branch depending on what answers you give, and reaches a conclusion of. And this is, in this case, this is not gradable, but you could make these gradable depending on what answers. Don't forget, the student is answering questions as they progress through the scenario, and it could be gradable. So it's just something to bear in mind. But obviously this sort of lesson can get there can be a lot of branches and things like that, and it requires some planning. So the other things, basically you have resources and you have various different activities. So the idea here is that these resources will basically enhance the pedagogy that's already been used in the classroom. It's not a replacement. It's looked at how we can enhance and kind of empower teachers to use these resources for more effective teaching and learning. So the other thing we have here down the side, so this is kind of our main kind of teaching part. We also have information going on the sides here that help us kind of coordinate our teaching and learning. So the first thing that I just want to draw to your attention is the calendar. And basically what the calendar allows us to do, so there's two aspects to the calendar here, up here. The first one here is upcoming events. So basically this tells me what's happening in the class. And then we also have a calendar here which basically it gives you the dates of things that are happening. So as a teacher I can go in and add stuff to the calendar, and there's various different types of calendar events. The first one, global, that's basically when something for the whole Moodle, an event that the whole Moodle needs to know about. There's course events, and that's basically when you want to tell something to do with the course. So teachers generally add course events so that anybody enrolled in that course will get notified of that event. But then there's also user events and group events. So if I'm involved in a group, or if I just want to put a notification for myself, I can put it in as a user event. So you can see here that it's very easy. If you use any calendar software, it's very easy to add events such as Outlook or something like that. And once you add an event, it'll be available to all your students to see. The other blocks I want to show you is, well, obviously the GGFL is there, and it's there not just for you but also for your students just to click on and search for resources. We also have recent activity on this one, but we have things like Rss Feeds. If anyone's familiar with Rss Feeds, it's basically like a news feed. So things like Irish Times, BBC News, all those things will have Rss Feeds. And when you click on the Rss feed, you can basically take that Rss feed and add it to your grid or your course web page. In this case, I'm just taking a feed from the New Zealand Earthquake Observatory, and I just think it's a nice ad for a course about kind of rock movements and things like that. To see an actual live feed coming in from New Zealand of different sectors and the magnitude of different monitors that they're finding in New Zealand. So it's just an interesting thing. But of course, this is completely customizable, and we have a thing, add a block here, and there's loads of different blocks that can be added to your course. So things like progress bars, you can add the quiz results so the student sees their quiz results. Forum activity, so if people are adding comments on forums and things like that, all that sort of stuff will be on their blocks in their kind of immediate vicinity that they can see easily what's going on in the course. So the idea is that it's kind of a start. You don't have a cold start problem here. You have all the course mapped out for you, but you can easily customize it for your own course, and you have all the different Moodle features to help you do that. So I'm going to hand it back to Gwen to finish.
Great, thank you very much, Mark. We won't keep you very much longer because I realise the time and it's Friday evening and so on. But just to kind of sum up on what we've covered, so the grid itself, every school will get their own instance of Moodle, which is pre-populated with all of this content which is mapped to the Irish curriculum. You have your subscription to the Global Grid for Learning library. We also have a central repository hub which we will continually add content to, maybe professional development courses for teachers or additional content maybe for other extracurricular activities and so on. And we'll add content to that you can download to your site. It also means that if teachers actually create content themselves that they wish to publish to other schools, that they'll also be able to add it to that repository and let other teachers know about it, and they can download it to their own school site as well. Okay. So just to mention again, I mentioned already about demonstration accounts. We'll also be able to visit schools to do in-house information sessions with all of the teachers. We understand that engaging with this type of technology can be a little daunting for teachers in schools. Not every single teacher is going to engage at the offset. So we do our best and we assist in every way that we can in your school to ensure that everybody understands exactly what you can do with the grid, and to show you just how easy it is to start to use it. We provide full training to all of your teachers. Every school would have 2 main super users, so we'd ask schools to nominate 2 main administrators in the school who would also be able to assist with helping other teachers from time to time. But it's all very easy to understand. We have lots of training manuals, we have lots of video tutorials, and we can do webinars and so on with your teachers from time to time if you so wish. But we're available and we're on the road, we're out and about, visiting schools. We have already got a very strong relationship with schools for ECDL and so on, and we have a very, very expert support team in the ICS Skills office. So that team would also be working on support for the grid as well. So we'll be on hand to, at the other end of the phone if you have any issues, obviously 9 to 5. Now we're not all night tech support, but we'll be available whenever you have any kind of issues. But we doubt you're not going to have very much with the grid. It's very, very user friendly and ready to use straight out of the box. Okay, so before I finish up, I'm just going to ask you just to fill in your feedback form. If you'd like just to visit your school or you'd like a demonstration account, you can tick that on the form and we'll grab that from you before you leave. I think there was a prize for a night here in the hotel for filling in the conference feedback form, so hopefully you fill those in as well, and members of ICS staff will pick them up on the way out the door. So just to remind you as well about taking your travel mug on holidays as well. We're looking forward to seeing those pictures, see who can go the furthest with their travel mug, and there'll be a prize at the end of the summer for whoever travelled the furthest. Okay, so you'll have to go onto our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter as well, upload your picture and tag yourself in. All right, so we look forward to talking to you again and maybe visiting your school, and thanks very much for coming along this afternoon. Thank you.